we got Matt from AroundSquare. Matt, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll start harassing you with some basic bro questions.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I kind of came to this just by accident around 2015. My background is education. I was a teacher, and then just had a sort of a hobby business designing toys and things. Then kind of played with toys, did like lots of like arts and crafts, making stuff by hand, woodwork and whatnot over the years. And it was just always like a hobby on the side. I didn't really plan to make a business out of it. But around 2015, I found Bugleri, and I guess the Bugleri community found me. And that's this little toy here. It's like kind of a Greek set of worry beads. And this was like kind of the first thing that I posted on Instagram, where people were like, "Hey, what is that?" And like, "How could I get that?" And I wasn't making them myself at the time, didn't plan to, but there was enough interest, and I already had like manufacturing connections just from the stuff that I was mucking around with previously. So I started designing some simple ones, and started giving them out for free at first, and then felt like, I've got this website, I may as well like design some, put them up for sale. So I did that. So that was like 2015, and then I was consulting at the time and just like maintained it as a hobby, and it eventually like became more fun and interesting than my consulting work, and grew it to a full-time business, and eventually like started like collecting people to work with me on it, so that I wasn't like spending all my days like cutting cord and packing orders and everything all by myself. We're now like 6 people strong, and my wife has joined in with me, and so I got 4 employees here, 2 overseas, and my wife and I are both working full-time on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's called how is it pronounced? Belgary?
Bugleri. I mean, I may or may not be pronouncing it correctly. I've been told it's not that bad how I pronounce it, but ask 20 English speakers to pronounce it, and then triangulate.
Sure. So how much of a different, like, because going through and looking at it from the outside, and one of the things that kind of going to a bunch of deep dives on different topics is like, well, I mean, it's just like a couple of beads on a string, right? Like, how much, like who cares, right? So what I found is you start getting into it is like, Jesus, like there is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So how much of a difference does those little things make in something like that?
Yeah, it depends how
simple.
deep you get, right? Like, for the first time somebody tries Chinese food, they think Chinese food's all the same thing, right? It's
Egg foo young chicken ball, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, then like once you start playing with it, the different weighting into the different feel of like all the different sets, like it's immensely different. It's not just the aesthetics, but like I'm sure you find it with your throwing knives, like the weight distribution. Are they top heavy? Are they bottom heavy? Are they like, what material are they made of? The kind of cord, the length of the bead, everything. Like, you spend hours playing with a thing, and the little nuances really make a big difference. And you find like, certain sets you can land tricks with more easily than others. Some are just like more fun to use because they're not like smacking your knuckles so hard all the time. And yeah, just, usually recommend people pick up a couple of sets that are different and go back and forth between them, because, you'll learn something on one set and then it transfers to the other set, and then you'll pick up something different.
Is there what is seen as this is the best type of cordage, right? Like, are there people that like live and die on their hill? Or it's like, oh no, bro, it's got to be a 600 weight Technora, or you go home. Or you know what? Like, I'll only use rawhide from a goat.
Like virgin rawhide, right? Yeah. So the consensus in the community is probably the 550 paracord. But even within that, there's like a pretty big variation. Some of the like the diamond weaves and so on, you'll find like, it's just like you really start to notice the differences. Like the diamond weaves tend to be like thicker and stiffer. The solid colors tend to be a little bit more supple, and they wrap around the fingers a little bit better. When I started out,
are you gutting your paracord?
No.
Okay.
Some people do. I mean, there's been all sorts of stuff over the years. People like gutting 550 and putting 275 into it to make this like nice kind of
sure
like mashup. I started off making them with 275 paracord, so it's about this big. Then I got kind of schooled in the early years, and when like people that I was sponsoring were like, "No, Matt, like old man, you gotta get with the times and do 550." So I switched over to 550, changed the design of a lot of my beads, so it went to 550. I've kind of come back around to preferring the thinner cord, and so we've actually I was always looking for like a higher quality alternative to 550, because we're spending like all this money to make these like beautiful titanium beads, or like we sell like $200 sets made from zircuti, and like we've even done stuff in precious metals, and it's kind of felt like
zirconium titanium opposite.
You got it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So just so I'm aware,
Yeah.
as the level of tech that you're using, are you taking those two powders and then pressing them, sintering them to go through and get that alloy? Because those are very different metals, and
Yeah.
both of them, in case anyone's wondering, are incredibly flammable to like go through and machine.
Yeah. So I'm not
Don't
doing
even
any of
step.
that myself.
Don't,
I
no.
I design on paper, and I
Sure.
send my stuff out to a guy who translates them into CAD files. Then we send
Sure.
those off to a shop, and sometimes the shops source the materials directly. Sometimes we source the materials and send the materials to the shop to be machined. But yeah, like my understanding is like the manufacturing of this kind of stuff is super difficult, and they end up like the reason there's not very many people making this stuff is because it's really hard to do. They do it in like essentially a vacuum or like a super clean environment, so that because you imagine you get a billet of this material and there's a few little bubbles in it and the whole thing's fucked, right? It falls apart. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It all depend on how that's done, right? Like, so if they're doing a powdered metallurgy where they just basically take the powders and mix them together and then press them in a mold and heat them up so they cinch together, but right, like
Yeah.
they could be doing that. Are they going through and using a resin? Like how do you want to skin the cat, right?
Yeah,
But
to be honest, I don't know. I mean, I don't always look at how the sausage gets made. I make sure that we've like covered our bases as far as like is the stuff safe and whatnot. But I try to not tell people how to do their job as long as they're doing it well, right?
that's
Yeah.
right. And then so what type of advantage would there be to using a premium material like a Zerk titanium alloy?
Well, titanium, again, like the nuances really matter. So titanium over stainless steel or copper or brass. Like we have fans in the community who just like they're copper people and everything they do is copper, right? Like their whole
I'm
kit.
leaning that way, yeah.
So yeah, like
Yeah.
their knife will have copper scales, their like copper flashlight, whatever, right? Um, Titanium tends to have some advantages, like I think objectively, just because it's like a nice, hard, durable metal. Uh, doesn't make the hands smell like copper and brass can make your hands smell like blood, whatever. The stainless steel is aesthetically looks really similar to the titanium, but it's just like substantially heavier. So for a lot of the stuff, like a lot of it comes down to weight. Like you don't want a set of Bulgari coming in much above like let's say like 15, 17 grams per bead. It starts to end up being a bit unwieldy, and your hand will get tired and whatever. You don't want to be like making giving yourself a RSI situation by like playing toys, right? So
Well, I mean, not to mention using tungsten beads, it comes around and hits you in the knuckle, my friend.
yeah, right.
Even
Yeah.
like we have a product that we do where we use tungsten carbide inserts on some
Yeah.
shock cord, and you can use them to bust like 13 millimeter,
I've
half inch like
seen those,
glass
yeah.
on a water
Yeah.
pitcher.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you're just like screwing around and it touches the wrong thing,
Yeah.
like that thing shatters, right? Like it will shatter glass. So it's like there's certain like,
Yeah. Yeah. I can
right? Let alone it's
imagine
going
like
to hit me in the
it,
knuckles.
it backfires and then comes back and hits you.
Well, just like on like going through and having those weights and you're doing that, and you're taking the knuckles, you just aren't paying attention, near your wife's new glass coffee table, like, matter,
Oops.
right?
Yeah. 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 So
So,
so yeah, I don't know. And back to the titanium thing, like that tends to be the most popular just because it's got that like durability versus weight kind of issue. Also, like the way the materials age, the copper tends to get scratched up, dinged up a lot more. Stainless steel, I find when you drop it and ding it, it tends to have these like kind of more like angular spurs. Whereas like something like aluminum or titanium that's just a little bit softer tends to be like you don't end up with these like kind of rough patches quite as often.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you had said that you had these really nice beads, and the problem was it's like, okay, well, we're just tossing some 550 on it. You weren't
Right.
really happy with that, and then what was it you started moving towards?
Yeah. So we started actually like originally I was looking to like purchase some manufacturing equipment so I could do my own 550 like kind of premium style because I wasn't happy with the consistency even from like American made manufacturers. It was just like kind of all over the place. Some of it was just unusable. But then I thought like, why am I settling for this like nylon or whatever material they're using? There's like all these other premium materials that are available. So we actually like got into custom manufacturing of Kevlar and silk. So now when we're selling these exotic sets with the premium materials, we'll ship them out on silk paracord, which is yeah, I've got some here. So it's still black. It looks very similar to the 550. It's like we've done it intentionally to have like similar spec to the 550, but it's just a lot softer. It's got a little bit of a
That's nice.
dynamic flex to it, a little bit less rigid. Yeah, and then we've also started doing Kevlar cord, which I love the way that the Kevlar ages. It gets nice and soft without getting scummy the way cotton. Like cotton just gets dirty and kind of dingy and sticky, but Kevlar
Yes.
ages really nicely. We've got some thicker Kevlar as well. So, yeah.
Have you looked at Technordal?
No, no. I mean, I'm aware of like there being some kind of products that are even like better than Kevlar at the moment, but like Kind
I'll go through and I'll send you where I source mine from. You can get black, but the
yeah.
undyed stuff looks like blonde hair. So
Is it like this?
uh it looks very similar to that. Yeah,
Okay.
that
Yeah. So
might
this
be
is
it.
this is
I
undyed
can't tell.
Kevlar. Yeah.
Yeah. So undyed Kevlar is typically like a bright yellow, where this is like the color of like sweet or something like that.
Cool.
But they have it like right up to like 2,500, but it's got that softer feel like you're talking about, like right out the gate.
Yeah.
And just like I said, it works. It's nice.
Nice.
Do
Yeah.
you ever
Yeah.
do anything where you're impregnating the cordage? So like as an example, I used to make whips way back in the day, and we use leather guts, and then for durability on the outside,
Yeah.
we would go through and we would use paracord, but it didn't have that flow to it. So actually wound up using a mixture of beeswax and glycerin, some clove oil, and you essentially wound up getting a feeling on that paracord that was a lot more. You get a flow that was a lot more like leather.
Cool.
And just kind of like changing the weight of the cord. Do you do anything where you're impregnating a cord or anything like that?
Haven't tried it in years. I mean, back when I used to play yo-yos a lot, there was this thing with the old responsive yo-yos about like waxing the cord to make it smoother. And
Sure.
I tried just like waxing a cord externally, not impregnating it, but I found that ended up being kind of sticky on the fingers. I didn't really like it. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's I think it's kind of like there's plenty to discover there. Beyond just I'm pretty happy with the offering the Kevlar and silk. That was a project that took a while because it's all like custom made for us, but I'm always looking to expand to like better options. And yeah, I mean, especially if I can go back to like some other organic materials, because I don't love using synthetics. It's just like it's undeniable that Kevlar is amazing, right? So I have to do it, but I'd love to get like some premium cotton or something.
Well, I mean, Kellogg's definitely has like you talk about titanium, right? Titanium's really
Yeah,
popular. Well, titanium itself is kind of a brand, right? So when people hear that, there's that like right like brand recognition. When people hear titanium, they associate with quality.
yeah,
Like we had brought in some titanium trenching
yeah,
tools, and I mean they like right from the Ural Mountains, blah blah blah, and it's like, and they're weird how light they
yeah.
are, but people just had to have them because they heard
Because they're
titanium and
titanium.
titanium is the brand.
Yeah.
But
No, I think that's like that mystique we've definitely benefited from. And I mean, you're playing with beads on a string. Like, does it have to be titanium? Obviously, no, right? But it's like it kind of gives it that like level of specialness that lets people feel like they've got something in their pocket that's not just like from a bead store, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And I mean, there's a lot to be said for having like just like a nice thing. Like you have a nice pen, it makes you want to write more, right? Like it's kind of nature.
As a guy at my Bruce Wayne job, I have to do a lot of writing, like not like I like filling stuff out by hand. And if you have a terrible pen, your life sucks.
Yeah.
Right? Like it just sucks.
Yeah, it's quality of life, right? Like you have something nice and you feel good using it, you probably do better work as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There was an old adage that I heard, or it was talking about like fashion. And it was years ago, and they said, like your clothes can be cheap, but your accessories should be expensive.
There you
And
go.
I and I always thought that was interesting, right? Like they're like if you have cheap if you have expensive clothes but cheap accessories, people really notice that.
Yeah.
And I was like, huh, right? And it was just, I mean, using a nice pen, right? You're going to use that all the time. Okay, so you spend $100 on a pen.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, or like $200 or 1,000
Yeah.
or whatever. But like that's how often do you do that, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And you use it every day rather than a pair of pants that you have to change, whatever. Yeah.
So I first wound up being exposed to the fidget toy community. I mean, I don't like using that word or that term because I think it's a bit dismissive.
Yeah.
As a guy that has significant amounts of nerve damage and whichever, like there's a lot of like cool benefits to it, just from like
Yeah.
flow state or just not having to screw around on your phone. You can kind of do something else and not
Yeah.
fall asleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got exposed to kind of the fidget community back when I think everyone else did, where like it was spinners and tops, boys, right? Like tops with rubies in them and like, fidget spinners and whichever, to the point that like Imperial Oil handed out fidget spinners as swag at one point, right? So it's like they became that much into vogue. So where do you think a lot of that drive came from towards that? And I mean, I noticed a lot of people in the EDC community are really dismissive. They're like, oh, well, I mean, this guy's like wasting his time, blah, blah, blah. Like he could be carrying an extra bag or like 5 extra knives or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, where did that come from? It's, to be honest, it's probably like symptomatic of the times, right? Like we're living in this age where our like visual environment is pretty barren, and we're like kind of compared to like historically being out in the natural environment where there's all this like foliage and like randomness in nature and like all of this different kinds of sounds and stimulation. We're like sitting in an office cubicle like staring at a screen all day, and our bodies are like starved for stimulation, right? So I think that's probably part of like what sparked this like kind of awareness of the fidgeting and the need for stimulation. I've like, since the beginning, really tried to distance myself from the fidget kind of terminology and the spinners. Like, back in the day, I could have probably made a lot of money making some machined metal spinners. And there still are some, like, honestly, there are some really credible guys doing some really cool, beautiful, like aesthetically amazing spinners, right? But it's just like, it's never held any interest to me just because it's just very idle. And I see our stuff as being like mindfulness tools almost, whereas that kind of like it's flick is pretty mindless. I don't know. I hope I don't offend people by saying that, but it's an adjacent community. I think there's definitely a lot of overlap between my customer base and the people that are into the spinners. But I'm just speaking the truth about why I never got into that. It's never interested me, and I've never like I bought a couple back in the day to just like check them out and see what there was there, and I played it for 2 minutes and then put it on the shelf and never really picked it up again. So, yeah.
So as far as like the unit that you're using now, the Belgary. I'm going to write this out phonetically at some point. Seeing like a lot of correlation between that and butterfly knives or ballet song, as far as the tricks and stuff of that can be done, and just kind of that flow state. Do you wind up seeing that there is a lot of correlation where people tend to use both? Like nobody uses just one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that the ballet song community is a lot bigger than the Buglerian community, to my knowledge. Like it's been around a lot longer. It's very vibrant. The ballet song community though has been actually like pretty cool towards Buglerian. I think like back in the early days of Buglerian, like 2015 or so, it was almost like very initially, it was almost like there was like a little bit of a rivalry, and then some of the like very top tier ballet song players started playing Buglerian, posting with it, and like showing basically how it kind of fit in to their lives, especially in places where butterfly knives aren't legal to carry, right? And also like even where they are legal, it's like it's a totally different vibe if you're flipping around a live blade in public versus a set of beads, right? And so we were fortunate enough to be like embraced by some like pretty amazing ballet song players. There's a guy by the name of Assassin Flan, who's he's like one of the first guys that I sponsored. Another guy, Jeff Durr, sponsored him for a little while playing Buglerian. Curtis Crow, Knife Stuff on Instagram. Another like these are all like pretty big like OG names in the ballet song community, and they really kind of, I think, paved the way for other butterfly knife enthusiasts to kind of accept and embrace Buglerian as like something that was kind of legit, like different from ballet song, but like similar enough that they could get behind it. And back to the
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
What's the history of Buglerian? Like, does it go back 500 years, 1,000 years? Like it's a basic enough tool that could be 10,000 years old.
Yeah, right. So I've tried to dig around in the research, and there's not a lot written online about it. And I've talked to some there's a friend of mine that I've developed over the years in Greece, who's a second generation bead vendor. Her dad runs a market shop in Crete, selling komboloi, and so they've kind of talked to me a little bit about it. And there's like kind of a cool connection to like Greek word beads. So these are like some traditional Greek word beads made from ebony. Okay, so these are they get flipped around in a kind of a more kind of idle way most times, but you can actually do some pretty cool manipulations with them.
So are the word beads Greek or are they Arabic?
Both.
Because I've seen some of the Muslims and stuff like that using something very similar in their prayer.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that wound up kind of being absorbed by Islam that was like pre-Islamic. Like, so examples like the legend of the stories of like the jinn and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I don't have a, I can't say one way or the other whether they originated in Greece or somewhere else in the Middle East, North Africa, Mediterranean region. They're played by some variant of them are played by like cultures all over the place, right? The connection to Greece and why I've kind of positioned my stuff a little bit more closely to the Greece is that, for one, the Arabic word beads, the tesba, are a religious item. The Greek ones are not. They don't have a religious. They're a cultural item, but they're not like a religious item. And so you don't need to worry about that kind of like misunderstandings or like misappropriation of different things. If you're flipping around something that's one country holds as sacred, there's lots more risk of offending people, right? As far as I know, the 2-bead version, or this like linear type of rosary, not closed in a loop, is as far as I know, these are like specific to Greece. I haven't seen people playing them elsewhere. I've seen, some Turkish worry beads that are like a single strand, like bead, 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 bead. And then we have, we can talk about these in a minute. There's like a Russian version called Chetki, which like, I don't know if you can check out this.
The metal version, that's the one that looks like a watch band, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Is there
So this is
ones where it's a loop?
so these no so the metal ones,
Am
these aren't metal,
I
but
missing something?
so these ones can join up and you can wear them on the wrist. So these are product that we make, but you can basically feed the bead through.
Oh, okay. I thought I thought it was on your page where there was somebody that was actually rolling them and it was in the loop. I could be mistaken.
Could have been, but yeah. So like there's these different versions from all around the world, right? But this particular configuration, as far as I know, is specific to Greece, and that's kind of where I got my start. And then I found that the Greek worry beads were not a religious item, so that's kind of where I positioned my stuff a little bit. Let's just stay away from that space.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have to offend somebody, why would you, right?
And I mean, I've subsequently started doing like I've had plenty of requests from Muslim customers to do 33 bead versions of our product because they want that because they use a 33 bead version in their prayers. And I've also had I've had requests from Christians and Catholics to do specific versions for them with certain numbers based on the way that they pray. And I've I try to stay away from custom orders too much, but when I get a request like that, that's like somebody, something so significant to somebody's life, and they want something that's like specific and personalized for them, I'm a bit of a softie. Like I try to deliver.
And are you assembling those?
What's that?
Do you assemble those?
Yeah.
Here, like you assemble them yourself or on your team or whatever?
Yeah. So for years I did it all myself, including cutting the string. The first job that I kind of hired out was some help with assembling them, and for like most of the time we did it all ourselves here in Canada. My wife's from China, and we've now got her sister-in-law working for us, and she's doing sorry, not stepsister, but she's doing most of the assembly for us there. And so some of the stuff that's like very time consuming, she's happy to do it. She's got a kid at home and is happy to have a job to stay at home, and yeah. So, but it's all custom, and the beads are all custom made.
Watch the soaps or whatever. And,
yeah.
I said you can sit there and watch your stories or listen to music. And I mean, if your kid starts taking off, you can right, you can put it down. It's not
man.
It's good, right?
And she's awesome. She's pretty gifted with manual work. We've been working for ages on doing a premium leather version of a hacky sack. And she's
I'll be straight with you. I thought that was a walnut when you held it up.
But yeah, this is like hand stitched premium leather hacky sack with custom fill. Like, so she's got the talent and the speed with it, so it's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with the Bulgari, is there a standard length of the cordage, or is there a standard way at which, like, okay, well, if you spread your hand like this from this point to this point, yeah, that's how long your string should be? Yeah.
So there's not exactly a standard, but there's kind of a range, and different people will set their range in different ways. But for most people, it's roughly like you spread your fingers, index to pinky is like kind of what they'll go for. Different people will, they're like, okay, 1.5 wraps around my fingers or something like that.
Is that lined up for their trick or whatever?
Yeah, but it's like, for me, I tend to go like this, or I'll drape it over one finger and hang it down just past the pinky. Okay. So this is what we refer to as long game. There's also a short game version, which is, I think that's more like the traditional style. Here's a set of traditional Bulgari. Check them out. So these ones, when they ship, when they ship from Greece, they're all like very short like that, and you can't really do as many tricks with that length, but it's pretty fun and snappy to play. And so what I've started doing ages ago was just doing a figure 8 knot in the middle of my cord, and that kind of translates it to the short game length. So these moves, like for people that are a bit intimidated by this, like flipping around and rolling it around the fingers, the short game is actually like a great place to start because it's just these tension moves. So like bouncing back and forth, and then wrap it around the thumb, bounce back and forth, then like get the pinky in there.
And do you or does somebody have some kind of a this is where you start type of series for those?
Yeah.
Because for me, I enjoy just like picking stuff up and just kind of play with it a few minutes here, a few minutes there. One of our big mantras with Fusion Fitness is frequency is more important than duration. Totally. So just to be able to pick something up, it's like, okay, I'm just going to play with this trick.
Yeah.
For the next week or something. Honestly,
so just quick answer to your question first before I take off on a different angle. But I've got a bunch of tutorials on YouTube. They're not great. Like they're a bit cringy actually because they're mostly most of them are old. But like the AroundSquare YouTube channel is pretty good. But then there's a guy who does like much better tutorials than me by the name of Muscle Bones on YouTube. And if you search his channel out, he's got a couple videos like here's where to start with Bagleri or like your first 5 Bagleri tricks and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, and he's like he explains things a lot better than I do, and his filming is a lot better than mine as well. Yeah, but back to your point on frequency being more important than duration. I think like one of the killer features of most of these toys is that they're just like they're so pocket friendly and they just fit into the life so easily. So I find like you're not filling up a pocket by having a little set of beads in there, but then every time you're like sitting somewhere idly, like you're in the store, like the lineup at the grocery store, you're waiting for the subway, whatever, like it's just right there. And so it's actually like talk about your 10,000 hours or whatever, like it's relatively easy to log the time because you can do it one-handed. And like I'm making eye contact with you right now, you don't even need to look because the hands give all the feedback that you need, so it's like it just fits into the lifestyle so easily. And you can play, I don't advocate for people to play in the car because you don't want people to distract themselves, but like I know people just like when they're stuck at a traffic light or like 10 cars back or whatever, they're doing something with their hands.
Sure.
Better than looking at their phone.
Well, I mean, I think we had talked earlier yesterday, and I mean, there's a real problem with getting stuck on your phone, right? And so it's like, and why is that? I mean, I'm bored, right? Yeah. Like I'm stuck at the doctor's office or whatever. And it's not that someone really wants to be on their phone, but this one's become more popular. I mean, there's no magazine to read or something like that, so you just kind of wind up getting inundated and having something to distract yourself kind of everywhere, because I mean, phones are really, they're there as a distraction, escapism, something like that. Yeah. So to go through and have something like that, the Bulgari, or I took a set of 2-inch copper balls with me on my last trip on the plane.
Right.
And I mean, a gal's like what are these? And I'm like, it's like a physio thing. Yeah. And they're like, oh, how'd it work? It's like actually pretty good. Yeah. Right. And like end of story. I was talking to a guy, he might actually be in here right now. I posted that video of my very terrible manipulations with this and with copper. And as far as just like, okay, well, like having that as like a trigger point massage tool, especially for forearms or whatever, but it's like, it fits in your watch pocket, right? Yeah. So it's kind of nice to just be able to distract yourself.
Yeah, I mean, one of the really nice things, I think this is one of the big differentiators for me between like something like this and something like a fidget spinner, is that like you really can, like you can just use it as a worry stone, like just have it idly in your hand, and it's got ergonomics that feel nice. But if you actually have like a little bit more attention to spare, then you can start working on tricks and rolls and like actually like have some fun with it, right? And it's like it is pretty versatile, as like you want to rub out some tension in your neck or whatever, right?
Is there anything about the design of these, sorry to interrupt you, where they need to be round on the end versus slightly more conical?
Yeah. So
as far as if somebody wanted something that was a little more trigger point focused?
No, so I actually have, so I've got this one, which is one of the recent models. So this is like I've got a modular version that you can screw off the ends and so the round ends, like it's designed for playing with, right? And so it's nice to have the round ends because you can manipulate it by the end. But I actually did I've got some I even have some like pointed ends that I designed at one point just for like just mucking around and different things. I was kind of getting into pen spinning for a little while, and I have an elongated version, and I did some like different kind of caps. Whatever, like so no real reason why it has to be round on the end. If you're looking for like pressure, I mean, as a like force amplifier, it's already pretty good because it's like it comes down to a fairly small point, right?
And what do you find that kind of the gateway one is for everyone? Is it like the knucklebone is seemingly very simple, but there's a lot of correlation between, like when I travel out of country, I'll typically travel 2 pieces of silver, and there's reasons for that. But one of them is if I'm stuck somewhere, I can just roll it on my fingers to pass the time. So do you find that, like, where is it people come in from? Like people kind of find your stuff like that. There's that knucklebone, so there's some correlation between that, or like you have some pens that are specifically built for spinning.
So I do have some, the pens that we make that are not specifically built for spinning. They're not great for spinning, to be honest. But we have these like machined metal pens. This one takes the Fisher Space pen refill. It's like a pressurized refill, and then we've got a fountain pen that we've been doing as well. So they're not great for spinning. They're just like aesthetically nice and comfortable to use, good to carry. The gateway, it depends for a lot of people, some people like really like the flashy manipulations and they go in for that, and then they find the other stuff and like eventually end up with some of everything. Other people look at the flashy manipulations and they're like, fuck, I could never do that. And so they get turned off, but then they might come back like a week later and they find something like this little guy, which is just like a it's a coin, but it's designed for manipulation. It's not gonna show up very well on the screen, but you can do like different manipulations with it. But it's also just like really nice as a word stone. Right? So it's got this like concave face, and you know, you
And is
just
that
like
a hematite or what? What is that?
this is polished titanium. But we got like again, we've got everything. We got like the zirconium, we've got copper, we've got
That's
we made some out of wood.
that looks really nice.
Yeah,
The grain in it.
yeah, totally. Yeah, and then like some people like the story of different things as well. So this is a set of those Chet key. Chet key are like kind of interesting. They've got like a really different story because this like it's that Russian style of word beads I was mentioning, and they have this like weird kind of mystique in Russia being connected with the mafia and the prison system. And some people are like oh my god, that's so badass. And they like this is a legit set from over there, and you can see like they've got like the Cyrillic writing in the back in the sides there. But like if you look at the imagery on these beads, I don't know if you can see that.
Is that wood or prisoner's teeth or what is that?
No, this is bone.
Melted down serving trays in the cafeteria.
No, you know what? Like, honest to God, like, I've had conversations with people in my DMs where they're like, I got a set of those. My uncle made it for me in prison out of like melted down toothbrushes and syringes. Like this kind
Yeah,
of
you know
thing.
what? Amazing though, right? Like,
right?
legit set. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a set made from bone that was sent to me by my buddy Jay. But yeah, we've you know, so what I'm saying there is like some people just like find the story fascinating and they're like, I need to have a set of those, and then that's like their entry point. But we've over the years, like I've realized that the like flipping around and doing tricks and stuff isn't like a selling point for a lot of people. And I've tried to kind of get away from the whole like skill toys branding as well, and just like broaden what we're doing, because like not everybody wants to be flipping around stuff and doing tricks. But you can get a lot of the same benefits from something like a set of mala beads, right? So that's what I've got here. So different people will come from different places, and you know they'll be intrigued enough to try something different, or like sometimes they'll just come and buy one thing. But like we don't have a huge community, but it's like it's a pretty like engaged community. Like we've got people that are like upwards of like 80 orders on our website now that have just like kept coming back, and I fucking love those guys. You know who you are.
Yeah.
But it's like it totally motivates me to keep cranking stuff out, and it also speaks to like the value of like the nuances and like the different weighting, the different materials, because the hands get hungry and they want to try different things and experiment and feel the different experiences, right?
We see a lot of so we started out with kind of our production of throwing knives, and what we found was people really started getting into shuriken or they're referred to as fabiao. I don't know what the actual pronunciation is. Do you know what it is? You're the Chinese speaker.
Fabiao, no, I don't know. Fabiao sounds legit.
Which are, yeah, it's just the Chinese equivalent of shuriken. And people think shuriken, they think throwing stars. But when you go through and you start getting into the different shapes, right, like hex versus round versus, or sorry, yeah, like octagonal versus hex versus round versus square,
right.
Going through looking at redistribution, like you talked about balance on something. When you get to a throwing knife, how does it behave? It's not only like you can have some center balance, but the bulk of the weight is out here and it rotates completely different. So people just wind up really getting into that tactile sensation, and shuriken or something that a lot of people thought were they're just so simple, and it's like each one is kind of its own art.
Yeah.
And so it's like there's like the base technique, but like this is shaped here, so you got to adjust, and it's just interesting. So I would imagine that you'd see a lot of correlation to, you know, someone really enjoying just the different textures, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Do you find that people like I'm a bit of a goon, and so I really like stuff that's heavy. Because partly I'm doing this for like a strength thing. So these ones that you sent me, right? I like that, but I'll probably wind up going through and having to get some that are copper.
Right. Yeah.
For anyone that's wondering, these are 2 3/4.
Yes, 70 millimeters, right?
Yeah. And so I kind of got reintroduced to they're called Baoding balls. And so by a guy named Dr. Dale Dugas. These ones are 2-inch copper. The set I think weighs like 2.3 pounds or 2.6 pounds. And I got reintroduced to those because I'm doing iron palm training, and the big kind of secret of how to not have your hand turn into an unusable Hellboy style club is these.
Right.
So when you start getting into like the classical Chinese arts, right, you have the yang, which is the right, the hard style, and then you have that soft and suppleness, and going through and looking at the stuff that's heavy, and so going through and looking at things that kind of give that dexterity with a certain amount of weight, juggling shot put, right? So just taking a full size men's shot put, which is 16 pounds. Um, it's to just reach down and palm that, not cheating, reach down and palm it, is something the majority of people will not be able to do, unless you're some kind of a mutant like Graham Park, who's probably in here right now. And so going through like looking at that type of just tossing those things around and learning to kind of flow with them. It's just really, to me, I find it interesting. And do you find that people tend to, in your audience, do they tend to prefer things that have some weight to them to give them that feedback? Like you'd sent me that two of these knuckle bones and this wood one.
Yeah.
I feel it's, to me, it's almost like I can't feel it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like versus the copper one, I can actually allow it to go through. And I mean, the other answer is I could also just get better at it, which is probably the real answer.
Yeah. So yeah, all very interesting. I think for the most part, people, just to generalize, people don't tend to prefer the heavier and don't tend to use these things as like strength training, or even to be honest, like finger strength. The exception being, of course, the what I call them contact balls, but the Bowding balls. Yeah, these ones definitely can be used to develop the forearms and the hand and wrist strength and so on. But you know, there's a lot of personal preference. Some people do enjoy playing the heavier things. Some people enjoy playing the lighter things. Like one of our customers who's like just like swears by the heavy stuff is like a 75-year-old lady. And she's like, she wants her stuff like heavier than what most like, 20-year-old dudes want, right? And it's like, I think for the most part, the people that want like the kind of training tools for like developing strength, they're doing that elsewhere, like with other products, and they're using our products for the other side of it, which you were just talking about, to like keep up the manual dexterity, keep the range of motion, the fluidity, and that the kind of dexterity to complement the strength training. And we do have we have some like seriously scary dudes like in our community, like lifetime combat sports enthusiasts, like lots of like Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners and so on, that use our products to kind of rehab their hands. And like one of the guys, he posted a review on his website. He said that like his hands are like kind of mangled and arthritic from like 40 plus years of combat sports. And he said that like playing with the knuckle bone had given him like it felt like he had given him 10 years back on his hands, right? And it's just like that practice. And so what I'm saying is like people are developing the strength in other ways, and then they're using these tools to work the range of motion and the fluidity and just kind of counterbalance the other things that they're doing.
The guy who I'd mentioned, Dale Dugas, so I wound up being an adjunct physiotherapist to a bunch of people that are too stubborn to go to the doctor. And so I've dealt with a lot of people, like a buddy of mine, Big Mitch, and I think he's born like 64. So, I mean, he's coming up to 60 at this point, and he drives around New York City and offloads plumbing supplies, like big heavy pipe and stuff like that. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just getting arthritis, my hands hurt. I'm just getting old. And I was like, well, so I gave him some exercise with a bag of rice, right? Or just like displays and stuff like that. I mean, just kind of restoring the function and stuff he could do. And then going through and using, like getting that function back and using, this is a Dita Jow called Tiger X. It's a forest that if anyone wants, I'll get you a discount code, the Dale sells, and it goes through and helps to, like, the people think they have arthritis, not all of them have arthritis, and they've just accepted being in pain.
Right.
And so to be able to see like, okay, well, I can get that function back.
Right.
And just because like, if all I've done is just use my hand like a meat hook and beat it on things, they just kind of assume like, oh, well, I guess this is just the rest of my life now. And it's interesting to see how fast that can be fixed.
Yeah. I mean, I had some injuries I had some injuries on my fingers earlier this year, and just was like working the range of motion just with this. And it's like, there's other things that I could be doing to work the range of motion, but I found like, I enjoy carrying these, and there's other things that you can do with them. And so just like doing that to like kind of press the fingers back in, and it's like, it's discreet. You can like sit at the desk and do it, just keep it in your lap or in your pocket, whatever. So yeah, just like, yeah, I hear you.
Well, I mean, especially if you're some type of traditional martial artist and going through and having to rebuild that. There's some, like you said, you had done Kung Fu before. You did Kung Fu for a decade?
Yeah, about 10 years.
Yeah, so there's certain fists, like I was just recently taken on by a guy as his disciple for boxing Choi Foot, and I'm currently conditioning something called a chop choi. So striking like that. And it's like there's a whole bunch of like things you need to do to build that up so you can hit with it and not just have it be useless. And going through and making sure you're keeping those neural pathways going is a big part of it.
Yeah, cool.
Do you what do you find that like is it an even split across the board as far as what it is people tend to go with, or like people like you get people that are kind of coming at it even split, or there's some guys where it's like this guy has 50 Belgaries and that's
Yeah.
his shtick. Like you
Yeah,
see
some
people kind of having a like a knuckle bone as a gateway drug, and then they kind of get the whole line sort of thing, or
I'd say like the people that get into one of them tends to get into multiple. But there definitely are preferences. Like there are some guys that are just like incredible with manipulating the Deadeye coins, and they have 15 different coins in their collection, and yeah, they've bought a couple of sets of Buglari and a Knucklebone, and they've tried them and not felt the same way about them. Same thing with like each of them has their own. Our most popular are still probably the Buglari. We sell the most of them. We have the most designs, but it's pretty well balanced at this point. The Knucklebones, the Buglari, the Deadeyes, the Chutney, and then we've got these other worry beads as well. We call them the ultras. They're like Malak Humboy hybrids, and you can flip these guys around as well. So these we probably like revenue wise, we probably sell the most of these just because they're a higher priced item. But in terms of like the number of things that we sell, Buglari's got to be at the top.
units would be Belgarian?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And how many variations of Belgari do you carry? Like I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because this is not a rabbit hole I've gone down.
Yeah, no, dude, like don't even start. It's we have like at this point
Okay,
we
let's
have
start with
like
how big is your personal collection?
oh shit.
Like not just what you make, but like everything you have in that shtick.
Let's see here. So I've got like three
Pounds
bags
worth?
like this of Buglari.
That's way more. Oh Jesus! So
Yeah.
like 20 pounds worth. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So I got plenty, but it depends if you're counting color variations and stuff as well. But we have probably like I want to say like probably 50 different designs in our product library now. We have something like 2,000 SKUs. That includes like different variants, like different colors and metals and whatnot. But yeah, we probably got like 20 or 30 like legitimately different like bead shapes and configurations, and then if you like add on to that like different sizes, like we have like the mini version, the regular version, whatever. So yeah, we've got lots.
And so the knucklebone is an example. The knucklebone that's a unique product to you, or what's the etymology of that?
Yeah, so the knucklebone actually was like I cooked it up in like 1989. I was in junior high school and getting in shit for like throwing my yo-yo around in the back of class, and like my dad came home from parent teacher interviews one time. He's like let's have a talk, Matt. And so I then like set about making something that I could like muck around with in class where I wouldn't be like so disruptive. And I came up with like actually it's right here. This is like 1989 version of the knucklebone.
What's that made out of?
It's like polymer clay. So
Cool.
yeah, and then I was digging around in my boxes when I was moving, I don't know, a while back, and pulled that out, and I was like, hey, I was making Buglari at the time, and I thought, I wonder what a machined metal version of that would look like, and so I sent it away to the shop, and I cleaned up the design a little bit, and here it is. So this one is actually like my own like invention, like my own thing that I came up with. I don't have it patented. We actually have a patent pending on it, but I don't have an interest in being like a gatekeeper. I'm stoked that there's other people out there making different versions of it now as well. As long as they're not copying my thing and calling it the same thing as what I'm calling it, then I'm cool with it. But yeah, so this one is like my own thing that I cooked up. The Buglari, of course, pre-exists me. I've got a couple of other things. See, I've got this one here. This is funny. And this is another one of my own inventions.
It's almost like a poi.
Yeah, it's a lot like a poi, except that it's got the balls slide on the string.
That is fascinating. What's the weight on those?
So these are ebony. This is just a sample that I just got a little while ago. So they're light. They're light, but we have we have bigger versions that we make from Delrin, which is like a pretty it's a pretty heavy plastic, and
similar to ABS.
Yeah. And so like Delrin, yeah, the POM, like that, those ones are heavy enough. Like you could probably put it through the hood of a car if you really wanted to. But they're pretty nasty if you hit yourself.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then the the dead eye,
Yes.
was that something that just kind of fell on the back of like magician coin manipulations,
Yeah.
or
So
was that
how it
was
started,
that kind of
I don't have it here. There's a guy named Aaron Stone who had posted a video online of like doing this like isolation, which I thought was like freaking amazing. And so I had a I don't think I have it here. I had a piece of jade that was like that I used to wear on my neck, right? So this is
sure?
like this Chinese style, right? So I had a piece of jade that I used to wear on my neck that was like basically like this, a little bit smaller.
Okay.
And I took that off and I was like, man, like that's so rad. Like you can actually like kind of make it look like it's levitating by playing with it like that. And so then I cleaned up that design and sent it away to the factory and came up with these. So these are like the original dead eyes,
Okay.
designed to be worn on the neck. And then like short time after that, like I really enjoyed it and made a cleaned up version with no hole in the middle. And then we've like, we've subsequently done like different versions with like we've got some with knurling and the different kind of again the different tactile experience. These smaller ones are a little bit more like the silver dollar size. And so people that are used to using the silver dollar for rolling on their knuckles or doing sleight of hand and that sort of thing are a little bit find these a little bit easier to work with.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, what type of have you seen like have you seen a lot of correlation or transition from kind of what you're doing or people that come from the contact juggling community into what you're doing?
Yeah. I don't know that we have a lot of like contact jugglers that have really found our stuff. There are a few, but like, the contact jugglers for the most part are not going to want to go for something like this, right? They're used to the much
It's too
lighter
heavy.
acrylic balls, right?
Yeah, it's too heavy.
Uh,
Yeah.
so I know for sure we have a few.
I have seen a video from, of course, it's from Russia, of a
Right.
guy contact juggling. It looks like it's a 40-pound steel ball.
Yeah, of course it's from Russia.
Like it's
Yeah,
it's not small, I'll tell you
yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's like it might need to be bigger. I'll see, and it's like an old school like strongman.
yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, so like we haven't, as far as I know, we haven't really like strongly connected with the contact juggling community, or even to be honest, like the juggling community. The one community that we have connected really nicely with is the kendama community. I don't know if you know kendama.
No.
I don't think I have one in here. Kendama is this like Japanese skill toy. It's like a ball and cup thing. It's got like a rod and then a ball with a hole on it, and they like flip it around, catch it in the cup. But it's become like this whole thing, and
I think Barrett Yoshida was playing with one of those when I went to visit him.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's pretty widespread now, and across North America, it's got a super strong, thriving community, and those guys have been like big to embrace our products. And there's a couple of like the big time kendama players that I did a collaboration a while back with a kendama company, and like some of the like famous kendama players have gotten into our stuff, and appreciate how they become kind of like ambassadors almost, just like shout out Jake Weems, like love these guys, and Rolf, like a bunch of guys that may or may not end up in the feed watching the video, but I owe it out of gratitude to them for sure for spreading the love into that kendama community, because it's a great community, super rich and like really vibrant. And I'd say that's the one where we've really connected. Like the other skill toys like yo-yos, juggling, poi, and whatever, less so. I think we find like people find our stuff and then they might introduce it to a few friends, but it hasn't been like it sort of seems like an obvious connection, but it hasn't been like a big connection so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's kind of the biggest thing that surprised you as far as a benefit that people have reported back? Like for me, I would look at it and say, just like if you're a competitive athlete, like grappling as an example, that there would be, I mean, like rehabbing your fingers, but just that the ability to chain moves together, right? So like come into that flow state in which you're just doing the thing, and it would, I mean, especially if you look at that short game, Bulgaria, it would require a certain amount of time, the way like the double-ended bag does in boxing, right?
Yeah, very similar. In terms of like what surprised me actually, I've been shocked by the number of people who have like written to me over the years talking about how these products have benefited them from a mental health standpoint. I didn't realize the extent of the mental health issues that people are facing, and had never like anticipated that these products would be so like beneficial to people. And I always like stop back from like trying to promote them from that standpoint, because I've never done any research on it, but just like anecdotally over the years, like we have like tons of people in the community that have suffered from like PTSD or ADHD, social anxiety, and even like addictions recovery and so on. There seems to be like some kind of connection there between like this like drive for stimulation, something to do with their hands, something to keep their mind occupied and whatever. And there actually are some like full-blown psychotherapists and counselors that are part of the community that use these products themselves. And so I've actually asked them a couple of times over the years, what do you think of this? Like what's going on here? And they've given me a variety of answers. One being this idea of like distraction therapy, basically like you're keeping your mind off of your troubles and giving yourself something else to do that kind of like gives you some stimulation, gives you a sense of satisfaction, maybe gives you a creative outlet and that sort of thing. But there's something else that I find like super intriguing, which is this idea of regulating the autonomic nervous system, like by providing your own stimulation. So it's the same idea, like people who find themselves getting sleepy in a lecture, they might start doodling, or they might start like tapping their, like clicking their pen, whatever, just like giving themselves that extra bit of stimulation to help keep themselves alert, right? And so I heard this phrase, like external or outboard autonomic regulation. And basically the idea being that you can regulate the amount of stimulation that you're giving your brain, but based on what you're doing, right? So if you're wanting to kind of increase your alertness, then you start doing something a little bit more active. If you want to kind of like relax or chill out, then something a little bit more slow. So yeah, so I mean, I can't speak to the science. I don't know if there is any science there, but just like anecdotally over the years, that's probably the main thing that surprised me. And it like I probably get 2-3 emails a month from people of just people like unsolicited emails where people are talking about how the products have benefited them in terms of their mental health. So,
I guess with like psychology is kind of soft science anyway.
Yeah.
So like perception is reality. So if it helps, like if it's helping somebody and they think it's helping them, it's probably helping them, right?
Yeah.
Or right. And there's Charles Polkwinis, or was.
I don't think so.
Very, very well known strength and conditioning coach. Actually, I had to go back, I think, to Montreal. And when you look at some of his work, he talks about a lot of the cutting edge stuff. I mean, it starts at the clinician level, right? He said there's a lot of stuff that we know works with, an N of 1 or an N of 10.
Right.
And it's just like a guy's been going through and doing this as a clinician. It's like, well, it's worked in every single one of my clients, right? Well, I mean, it's only a sample size of 20. Yeah, well, it's worked really well for all of them, right? And so he's kind of talked a lot about by the time something becomes accepted in the field and it gets right up to academia and then filters down. Yeah. I mean, it's 30 years out of date.
Right.
So
yeah. So I mean, I've never, I actually have a research background, but I've just like never had the time or really like the motivation to go out there and do an actual like proper study of this thing, just because I'm content to be doing what I'm doing and have whatever benefits be just benefits that people experience. And everybody's different, and everybody's neurology is different, and their lifestyle is different. And if you enjoy the stuff and you get something out of it, great. And I'll probably never like try to promote the stuff from that standpoint, because I kind of hate that racket of trying to sell people stuff based on their fears and whatnot. Just like if you find it beneficial to you, awesome, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
It kind of winds up going through and trying to not be steezy and being something that you're not ashamed of. But on the other hand, there's tons of people that are selling stuff that just doesn't work, right? So,
yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so, what is it that keeps you engaged? What keeps you into it?
To be honest, it's always been the community. Like I had a great career before I started doing this. I've got a PhD in education. I was like flying all around the world, like big time consultant, evaluating international development projects, and I had lots of satisfaction from what I was doing. But I found the community, or like just the excitement around these things was super stimulating for me, and hearing about how people enjoy the products, benefited from them, whatever, and then just like over time, just like the relationships that I've developed with people. And then it's been super gratifying to see like people within the community developing relationships between one another, supporting each other. And it's become this great scene online. And I've only met a handful of these people in real life, but like I legitimately call a lot of them friends. And so to be able to be doing, I love designing the stuff, I love playing with the stuff, and the relationships that I've developed have been great. And it's always been like, the community has always been the most satisfying thing. And so I always just kind of try to put that first in my decision making. And I've never enjoyed the business side of it. I've never been like a salesman or whatever. And it's just, it's great that it makes money. And like now it's gotten to the point where it's my only thing, and it's feeding the family and stuff. And so I'm like keen to keep doing it. And of course I want it to be successful, but like what kind of where it started and what I still love the most is the community.
And then what or sorry, do you have more in the pipeline? Is there a desire to kind of continually put out the the next hot thing every spring?
Yeah, well, not every spring, dude. It's like every month we launch like 6 to 10 to 12 like different products, and it's a little exhausting. But we've got like 2 people dedicated full time to like sourcing and production and quality control and stuff. So it's like we've got a little bit of a machine that we've created. It's a little bit of a monster at this point though because I'm cranking out too many new products and I'm running out of space. So I'm like, but I don't.
Like floor space.
Well, yeah, yeah, exactly. And especially like we've recently got into designing clothing and all that stuff. I'm sure you know, like boxes of stuff in different sizes, like it takes up a lot of space, right? And
If
yeah, so
if you want to know, if you want some real good advice, don't ever bring to market your own jeans. 40,
uh,
40 SKUs on one product. 40.
yeah, no, it's relatable. We got pants, man. We got pants. I was actually laughing earlier when you said you want cheap clothing and expensive accessories. We were selling our pants for $20, and we have sets of beads for 300. So yeah,
Yeah. Uh, Doing clothing is like going through doing throwing knives is an example, which is very hard to do to do well because the most important part's heat treatment and everything can be right. And if that one step is off, they shatter. I
right.
can show you like 9 millimeter steel shattered, right? Um, but there's kind of like one thing that can go wrong with that, where you go through and like jeans, and the textiles industry for a lot of people that don't know is very, very shady. So it's like someone will go through and they're like, yeah, well, instead of the 80 weight, we'll use the 60 weight thread. And instead of the polyester that you want, we're going to go with cotton. And instead of like 10 to 12 stitch prints, we'll do 8 to 10. And they're like, oh, I mean, like, like it saved us $2 a pair. Like we made $2 on each pair.
Yeah.
And it's like, and now you have something that, it lasts 6 months instead of like 3 years, right? So it's
Yeah.
like unless people know what they're doing and are incredibly dedicated, like do not do textiles. But you clearly have the time and the dedication.
Too late, man. Too late. But we've tried to be like we've tried to be like prudent in how we've gone into it. Like we started out doing some like kind of basic cotton pants, and then
Sure.
we added a vest like a year later. Recently we added a jacket, and like along the way we've done some like more premium stuff as well. We've got some cashmere sweaters that we did, and some wool vests that are like super nice. But we've like yeah, it's like um I don't know that way. I want to be like a big clothing brand at all. It's like that's like it's a whole different animal. That it's just
To,
like those
to
were
do
more
it
like
well is
yeah,
hard. And
it's
again,
hard. And I mean we before doing jeans like you've done the jeans. I actually would like to do some jeans, but I wanted to get some experience with the cotton pants first before jumping in and trying to do some jeans. So I don't know if it's next year or 5 years from now or never, but it's one of the things that I might do at some point.
I'll when we get offline, I'll just give me your size and I'll send you out a squarehead sport
Right
coat.
on.
I love Adidas tracksuit jackets, and I just hate the lack of pockets.
Okay.
So
Right.
it has like, I think it's like 11 pockets or
I
12
saw when
pockets.
you released those. Yeah, they
They're
look
awesome.
amazing.
They're really,
Right.
really good.
Cool.
I live in them, right? And
Cool.
when I get those and the jeans that we put that there's like 11 pockets, you're just
Yep.
like, where did I put that? Right? Like I know it's here. I just don't like the fob to get in my car. You're like, well, it unlocked and it started, and I do not have the time to go through all this right now.
That's too funny. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know exactly what's next, man. But like I kind of one of the things that I actually want to pursue is doing some knowledge products. Like we've been doing we have this like leaflet that we've been putting out every month for the last 2 years, just like talking about critical thinking and like a little bit of philosophy and stuff built in there. And just like it's like short little bits, but I'd like to do something a little bit bigger in terms of like written work maybe. But yeah, I don't know. There's too many little options.
Uh, I've done around 10 knowledge products, and I quite enjoy them.
Yep.
And it's for me, uh, if nothing else, it allows me to codify what it is that my thoughts on the topic are, right? So
Right.
we did a product called El Russo, and El Russo is a fitness program that we did 2000, early 2019. It used bands and body weight, and I built it for my dad who has COPD. And the trick was to get it 100% scalable, right? So my dad was COPD, and guys that are competitive grapplers both use it.
Mm.
And so it's like, how were we able to do that and having it build in like the rehab prehab side of it? And the most interesting part about it is I had guys contact me after doing it for about 6 weeks. So like, I've had chronic neck pain or chronic shoulder pain for 10 years. It's gone. What did you do? And you're like, you're welcome,
Amazing.
right?
Amazing.
And so it's
Amazing.
just kind of going through and for me, I find the knowledge products they can be frustrating in some points, because to go through and get that out there, a lot of times there winds up being this, you got to give away the farm, and it's like, okay, or with YouTube, like you wind up having a lot of very low
Yeah.
value stuff out there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, but I could just look on YouTube, and you can do whatever you
Yep.
want, right?
Yep. Yep.
And so, but also the most rewarding in terms of, like, we have three on Throwing Shuriken called the Tsunami Method, and getting guys who are like, I've watched all the videos that are on YouTube, and after I got this, and within 3 weeks I'm doing what the guy in the video is doing, right? And it's just like, and they're like, I just don't think about it the same. It's neat to be able to just have your words and those things that you can pass on. And also, I mean, there's no shipping on it. And being Canadian, if there's one thing that people are mad at, it's the price of shipping. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Like,
Thanks, Amazon.
I'd ship it cheaper if I could, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Everybody used to the free overnight shipping, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's great when Amazon's to the rescue, but unfortunately you get what you get off Amazon, right?
Totally. Yeah. So I mean, I'd love to do some higher quality tutorials as well, because people are always asking for more tutorials. And I know, like, there's enough other people doing stuff right now that it's awesome if somebody just steps up and does more tutorials themselves. I'd love it if people took the reins, but yeah, there's too many opportunities, and so I kind of just go where the energy is, right? Like I have some, like, goals that I set for myself, but whatever's exciting me in a given day, I might go in that direction.
I got one more question for you, actually two more questions for you, and then we'll open up to questions from the audience.
Sure.
If you guys want to get ready. If you go back and give advice to your younger self, your 15-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh God. Oh God. Yeah. I mean, I think it's probably would be around, like, being really careful about the people that you surround yourself with and commit yourself to. That's, like, some of the biggest challenges I've faced in my life have definitely been related to interpersonal stuff, and the kind of the impact on me coming out of that. Business wise, like, honestly, like, I'm happy I did what I did before doing what I'm doing right now. It feels like there's a satisfaction to look back and to know that I had this other career, and that I didn't just, like, plunge into this on a whim and start a business on the internet. I feel good about what I did prior to what I'm doing right now, and I know that it's there to fall back on if I ever choose to. I'm happy to have, like, committed myself to my education and whatever, and so yeah. Been exploring my own, like, kind of psychology a lot lately, and there's definitely some lessons there that are a little bit, like, more personal than I want to share right now, but definitely, like, spend time reflecting, spend time, like, applying that critical thinking to ourselves, and, like, but also, like, being kind to ourselves, right? A lot of the challenges come from internalizing judgments from other people that may or may not be germane to how you want to live your life. It's just that we never grow up questioning them, because we're surrounded. It's like the fish doesn't know they're swimming in water, right? Because it's their environment. So
okay, what three books do you recommend that everyone should read?
oh shit,
Doesn't have to be related
for that one.
to this.
Let's see here. You know what? I'm gonna take it in a different direction. Here's the three books that are. I'm gonna give you four books that are right beside my. I mean, everybody should read 1984. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. So
yes.
Do yourself that service if you haven't done that. And I got here, From Democracy to Freedom. Give that a check. Post Scarcity Anarchism, Murray Bookchin. If you don't know Murray Bookchin, check him out. This is freaking fascinating. The Flip, by Jeffrey Kripal. He's like a religious studies prof, but he's talking about all sorts of, like, quantum theory stuff. Is, like, pretty fascinating. And then The Demon and the Machine, Paul Davies. So this is my current reading list. So I mean, a couple of favorites. I mean, another one of my favorites, The Glass Bead Game by Herman Hesse, or also goes by Magister Ludi. That one's, like, it's a thick book, pretty dense, but it's, like, freaking, like, awesome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see what questions that we have in the audience.
What book club when? Thanks, Dork. All the guys from the AroundSquare and the Buglary community, they already know me too well. They have no questions left.
We need a list from Mac. Matt.
Oh, Lost Boy Soul. What do we got in here? So we got a little bit of Longjing green tea here. Empty cup right now.
Excellent. How long have you been doing BJJ, Matt?
About a year. Been going up until the last month. Been going about 4 times a week. Kind of strained my neck a little while back, so I kind of ended up with like a bit of a bad shoulder. But it's like I'm almost through it now, and I'm actually thinking next week I can probably go back.
Do you prefer gi or no gi?
No gi. It's just like I don't know, gi. It's just like there's too much going on there, and I don't know. I also find like I gotta protect the assets here.
Well, I was going to say, like, do you hate your fingers?
No, I mean these are the money makers, but I haven't been very careful in the gi, and I tend to get the death grip on, and so it's like I need to be a little bit careful, but I also just like no gi. I love. I mean, it's technical in a different way, but I just like I like the different kind of the different moves, and like being a skinny guy, it's like I find it's like regarding and stuff with getting the knees in there and stuff. It's like I find no gi more fun. Let's say that.
I enjoy the scrambling side of no gi. Right, you can kind of get that flow state.
Yes, yeah.
And it tends to be faster. I equate it to with paintball. It's like pushball versus speedball. Right, like it's just faster, it's more intense. Where I just find lay and pray in somebody's garden gi annoying. So, Isaac Vans, what are some of your hobbies? I gather you have a lot on your hands regarding work. So what do you do in your free time?
So to you or to me?
I think it's you.
I mean, I read and I write. I've got my work is hobbies, right? But I also run. I row. I swim. I grew up as a competitive swimmer. That was like my big sport up until my 20s. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Will Farr wants to know what Bill Gary set you think is the most underrated.
Underrated. Probably the micro bosses, 4-bead micro bosses. I don't have a set here actually. Oh no, I do have a set here. Yeah, I'd say this. Like, suit doesn't get much more simple than this, but it's an absolutely awesome set to play. Super fun, and you can do anything with it.
Do those slide around?
Yep.
Those beads?
Yep. So that's like another thing. Like oftentimes, if I don't want to be like flipping them around, I'll just do this bead counting raindrop kind of thing.
Okay.
Yep.
Joel Bill Gary wants to know whether you got a glow in the dark K-bone. Sorry, Joel, what was that? Glow in the dark K-bone.
Yes, Joel, we're actually doing samples right now. I'm hoping that the Glow Dead Eyes will be out next month, and the knuckle bones won't be far behind.
Are those Kieranite or what are they?
To be honest, I don't know. It's POM, so it's like it's the factory tells me it's the same material as Delrin, but just with the glow. I think it's pretty comparable to what gets marketed as Turbo Glow.
As which?
Turbo Glow.
No. Sure.
So yeah, I don't know the chemical specifications, but my understanding is that it's POM, so the same material as Delrin.
Awesome. How you doing, man? Gi for life. You're objectively wrong. Please don't choke me with my shirt. What is a Dexter's Labs is asking about a Glow Banzi and a Glow Slimini.
So the Banzi are these guys here, the thumb rings. So this is actually like modeled after an old like Chinese archer's ring. But yeah, Glow Banja. It's not in the pipeline, my man. Sorry, but yeah, Glow everything. I understand. It's probably only a matter of time.
Do you see any people requesting a lot of stuff that'll glow under black light, like rave folks and whatever?
Yeah, so I mean, back in the day, like this one that I was swinging around earlier, that definitely gets into the space of like flow toys, where you see like the LED versions. And there's actually a guy that ripped me off that's like selling an LED version on Etsy and stuff. I don't care. It's fine. It's not my scene, but it's people have asked for them for sure. And we actually we're going to make a glow version of this. We've got samples coming of this as well. So yeah.
Fantastic. So that's the Banzi.
So this is the Banja.
Banza, yeah. And then the other one was the Slimini.
This one here is the one that I was flipping around. So I used to call this monkey knuckles, like way back in the day. I started to kind of get tired of that name, and I now call it Dubulo.
Dulo?
Dubulo, yeah.
Dulo. He's asking about a Slim Mini.
Oh, the Slim Mini, yeah, Slim Mini. A glow Slim Mini. I don't know, maybe we'll work on it. The Slim Mini is just like it's a slimmed down version of the knuckle bone.
Oh, it's just more contrasted.
Yeah.
Pope Sober, will you do more Prosvenox? I should have got a pronunciation guide.
Prosvenox, yes. Where are they? So these are the Prosvenox. This is one of the styles of check key. Sorry, Pope. What are you wondering specifically? Different versions.
He wants to know about copper.
Oh, copper. Oh,
if you're going to do some copper.
Yeah, no plans at the moment. Copper's pretty heavy, but yeah, maybe. I mean, hit me up. I could always make you a custom version.
I like copper a lot myself. I just fucked that up. Okay. Glow Dead Eyes. I think you'd said that those are in the works.
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah. So Glow Dead Eyes are in the works. Anything else, boys? Gals? Folks? Okay. It's been a hoot. I will drop you a line as soon as we get off this chat. So if anyone missed the interview, missed start of it, I'm going to copy it. I'll download it and I'll put it up on YouTube so it's easier to watch, or you can listen to it. And I'll make sure I send that link over to Matt. Anyone that's not already following Matt, at AroundSquare on Instagram, URL is aroundsquare.com.
Yep.
Awesome. And is there anything else that you'd like people to check out?
No, check out the website, and yeah, you have any questions, hit me up. Or we've got a pretty active Facebook group and a Discord group. The links for those are all on my website. So yeah, the community is awesome. Like, they'll answer any questions better than I will.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks for everyone that tuned in, and thanks, Matt, for being able to share your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And we will we'll get at you sooner or later. Cheers.